over St. Mary's.
Yes.
They put together an identity over
Yeah.
Bennett's time.
Yeah.
Is this just another iteration of what he does, or do you notice some intricacies to what this team?
No, I think what's magic about him is he just does the same thing over and over and over again, and his guys know it, and they, they're committed to it, and he's. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country in terms of the product he's able to put on the floor with the talent that he amasses. Right, and it's just as incredible. So it's just them. Like, this is St. Mary's. This is, you could identify them. If you took off all their jerseys and watched them play a game, you'd be like, yep, that's St. Mary's. That is 100% St. Mary's. And this is a great team, and they're playing really well together. And they got superstars on this team. I mean, this Kyle Bowen is a superstar. He is, he's not the headline guy in that team, but he is probably the best defensive player in our league. I think he's got the best. He's close to the best shooting percentage in our league. He doesn't do a lot other than make, catch, shoot threes on the offensive end and offensive rebound and screen and get everyone organized. But you have a guy like that that's a veteran. That's a superstar in all the ways about the game that are winning ways. It's just incredible. So they're good. I mean, clearly they're the best team in our league right now. They're one of the best teams in the country right now.
I think you kind of talked a lot this season about going against teams who play at a really slow pace, and
Yep.
your new system would kind of
Yep.
match up with that. What do you feel like is the biggest challenge going into Saturday with that?
Well, nobody makes St. Mary's play fast. It just is. They refuse to let that happen, and so they're a combination of physical and skilled enough and disciplined enough, and like they just know who they are, and so we've. Every game we play them turns into just a smash mouth affair, and I think it's a beautiful game. Actually, I love it so much, and it's we've had a great it's been a great rivalry. I expect it to continue to be.
Do you think the physical nature of the Santa Clara and USF games have you guys ready for that type of a challenge?
Yeah, well, I hope so. Let's hope so. Right. So we're ready. It's just different. Santa Clara's just style and their methodology is so distinct, and the way their physical is so distinct. I actually think Randy could grab 5 guys that are 175 pounds and still put a really, really physical product on the table. Because of how he coaches and how they go about it, right? And how they kind of trick you into standing a little bit. And but yeah, certainly it's not going to be the first physical contest we've been in. It's just going to be a uniquely St. Mary's physicality, which is clearly it's a challenge for everybody in our league right now.
You sounded pretty frustrated Saturday night in your postgame.
Did I sound frustrated?
Just a little bit, but looking back at it now, do you feel any different than you did then, if that makes sense?
No, because I think we're so desperate to get better, and we can't afford backward steps, right? It happens. It happens in growing. And if I was more mature and a little bit of an adult, I would be willing to accept that. But I just, we just are running out of time. We have so much work to do, and so many ways we need to get better, and so many ways we need to get more reps and more experience. And I feel the pressure of time right now, and so I think our guys feel the pressure of time right now to try and get better. And so you're juggling. Everybody's juggling all that stuff at this point in the season. But when we don't, I hope that we're super frustrated when our engagement doesn't match up with the standard that we have here. That's super important. And it's super important that you have standards that you never dip below or never allow yourself to dip below. And I felt like we were flirting with that a little bit on Saturday, and that's something we always will be hyper focused on addressing.
What's the approach then when you do take steps back?
The same as if you take a step forward, you got to come in the next day and get better, right? And it just is, it's a really rare quality for players or teams or organizations or families or anything else to be able to stay focused on like growing, right? And it's really frustrating when it's really rare when you're in that like backwards progress and to still stay hyper focused on growing. Most of us, when we take a step backwards or we take the 10th time we take a step backwards, we just like throw in the towel and say, forget it, man, this is just not going to work. And I think that I think this group is willing to refuse to allow that to happen. But it's not because it's easy. It's hard to do. I mean, that's why very few people do it. Most of us just collapse at some point, and it ends up being super frustrating, and there being a lot of fighting and a lot of emotion just to kind of keep forcing yourself to try and move forward. And so I think that's it. You do the same thing. You get up the next morning, you figure out how we're going to get better, and you try and take, the emotion is useful, but it can't be a distraction. You can't indulge in just getting sidetracked by the emotion. So you have to set it aside as quickly as possible and get to constructive, and then when you fatigue, then go back to the emotion to kind of drive you forward a little bit more, and it's a good process. It's actually a really magical process. It's one of the greatest things about sports is it teaches guys to do that in a really unique way, and so I'm grateful for it, even though it's super painful.
Do you fear that Dallin's the grind of his first season is catching up to him a little bit now?
Well, listen, the grind of the season catches up with everybody, especially with rookies, right? With rookies, it does. It always does. It just is like, it's overwhelming, especially with a rookie where you thrust so much responsibility on him. And Dallin's not just a point guard on this team, but he's a point guard on a team where he doesn't have a lot around him that's really super, super solid, right? And so he's carrying a big load, and he's, like we've been concerned about health the whole year long, and then, it just is a new experience. I'll never forget my first year in the NBA, and we got to the All-Star break, and I had already played 2 college seasons, and I was like, I can't believe we have 41 left, plus, fortunately, we had 21 in the playoffs. You're like, we're halfway through the season, and this is, including preseason, this is 30 more games than I've ever played in my life. And so it's just an adjustment. It's an adjustment. It's a gift, right, to like face that, and you climb to what you think is a top mountain, and then you got to keep climbing and keep climbing and keep climbing. So he's definitely in that process right now, but he's got a champ's heart, man. I think this dude, I have a lot of faith in Dallin Hall that it doesn't matter how heavy things get or how frustrating, he's just gonna like keep pounding on the wall and break through. Like, it's just how he is. So he's, we're really fortunate to have him and the rest of these guys too.
We've talked about turnovers throughout the season.
Yeah.
Up, down, but
yeah.
It seems like they're a bigger issue right now than they have at any point. You feel like you need to change anything at this point?
Yeah, well, the thing I'd like to change is to get better. It's interesting. I mean, the turnovers, sometimes it's just the low-hanging fruit. Like, for example, at San Francisco, we had 1 less turnover than San Francisco, and we still were never in the game. So it's not like the turnover comparison was the deciding factor in that game, right? It's just that we've talked about it so much, and it has been an issue that we just, it's kind of like the easy place to go again. But certainly that's one of the issues we're facing, and we got, unfortunately for us, we got like 30 of them. Not 30 turnovers, we got like 30 issues. Although we have teased 30 turnovers in the game, we've never got there yet, thankfully.
2 more questions.
With regards to Trevin and/or Tanner, are they closer?
Yeah, Tanner, I don't think is going to approach. He hasn't even been in practice. Trev is we're 2 weeks away now. We're 2 weeks away from him being a 6-month point. So, and he's actually, I mean, he's almost been in full practices. Like, he's still cautious, but so, we'll kind of see. I mean, we're also getting to the waning period of the season, and we'll just kind of play that by ear. I think at the 6-month mark, we'll probably make a final decision based on how he's feeling and kind of everything's going.
One more question.
You had and maybe it was just specific to the situation, but it seemed like the best offense this weekend was Rudy just taking the ball and going.
Yeah.
How can you leverage that into maybe a better start for the offense?
Yeah, it's so it's interesting. Part of that is a little bit. For example, we scored relatively well in both these games, but we really scored a distorting amount of points in the last 4 minutes when the whole tenor of the game changes, and Rudy also did, right? And so there's some of that that's just like it's kind of when the game has gone sideways and everybody's just in panic mode trying to make something happen. It's probably not sustainable. So there's that's like measuring our approach to trying to use Rudy in different ways. But there's also part of that we're like, yep, we need to leverage him a little bit more. And I think he's feeling that. And it's this has been a super growing process for him because it's the first time he's been a point guard. And so he's trying to find a comfort place for that. But yes, for sure, that's something that's grabbed our attention. And we're like, hey, can we find space to use him in different ways also? And I think that's really important for us. One of the things that we did with Rudy late in those games, we started getting rid of ball screens. We started just letting him play in space a little bit. And it was actually good for our team. And so you're always arguing whether you want to bring a second defender or not. And he's shown some. If you go through the season, if you remember back to some of the situations, San Diego's one that sticks out, in San Diego State, and there's some others where if I could run it back, I probably would have been like, yeah, I'm not bringing a second defender. We're gonna actually let him just create in a motion into an isolation and kind of play a space game more than a ball screen game or a slip game or whatever. And I think that's probably where we'll lean with him now. Not always. I mean, he's still going to be engaged in a lot of activity with the team, but there's going to be some, if we can find him in the right spots, where he'll go. Guys, thanks for being here. I'm really grateful for you guys, okay? Appreciate y'all.